What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Week 8 live Start Sit with the Fatboyz, presented by the Fantasy Holics Podcast Network. Brent, how you feeling for Week 8, my man?
I'm excited. It's Week 8. We have our biggest matchup in our Logan Dynasty League that we have. We got the two undefeated collection. I'm actually excited for this week. Looks like a good week. Seattle looked great last week. And then they get a tough Buffalo Bills team this week. I'm excited to see this week and how everything plays out. It should be a good week. Some of the lower scoring games this week, I don't think we have a game that tops the 50-point threshold as like last week we had, I think it was 3 or 4 of them. So it should be, a little lower scoring in your fantasy lineups, but should be a good week.
Yeah, it definitely does project to be a good week. Like you said, there's a lot of questionable players out this week. There's a lot of offenses that have looked really, really good that are going to be without some major contributors this week, such as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've got Baker Mayfield, who's having a career resurgence again this year in Tampa Bay, now missing his 2 best weapons. We've got DeAndre Hopkins making his debut on the Kansas City Chiefs this week. You've got a week of Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper with their respective teams coming out to play. So there's definitely a lot of things to watch this week, Brant. It'll be really interesting to see. I'm also really interested in the Sunday night contest this week. It'll be interesting to see how the Niners proceed without Brandon Ayuk. So definitely some interesting contest as the day rolls on here. So let's jump into some of these questions, see if we can't get you guys right for this week. Amy says, good morning. This is a couple part question here. She says, number 1, I have one running back spot, 1 flex, and 1 super flex. PPR, Tony Pollard, Brian Robinson, Kyler Murray, Amari Cooper.
So she needs to sit 1.
Mm-hmm.
Curtis Samuel up this week as well. Seattle's banged up in the secondary, so Amari could be in for a good game. I think I'm going to sit Tony Pollard. I know Spears is out, but PPR, I think I'm going to sit Tony Pollard.
Brian Robinson's my start of the week. Obviously, Kyler's playing too well to keep out at this point. Should be a shootout down in Miami with Tua back. And then, yeah, like Brand alluded to, Amari Cooper, they're gonna use him and abuse him this week, so he stays in the lineup for sure. So we are in agreement, Tony Pollard on that one. Number 2, Rashad White or Olave in the flex, and Njoku or Evan Ingram at tight end. So a 2-part question there, Brant.
I think I'm going to go with Rashad White. They're going against the Saints are going against the Chargers, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they got Rattler under center. I think I have to go with Rashad White. He did not look very good last week. I think I'm going to go with Rashad White on that top one. I think I'm going to go with Evan Ingram on that other one. He gets targeted, just peppered with targets down there in Jacksonville. So I think that's who I'm going to go with over Njoku.
Yeah, Rashad White should be a PPR monster this week without the weapons, the pass catching weapons in Tampa. So I like Rashad White as well. And then for the tight end, it's Evan Ingram for me. Then PPR or question number 3: do we trust Debo if he's playing? How do you feel about Debo if he suits up, Brant?
I mean, if he suits up, I think he's good to go. No reason to push everything. The division is just beating up on each other. You're second in the division. You still have quite a few division games to play. So if he's playing, I think that means he's trustworthy.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. If Debo is playing, you start him. All right, Brant, Kevin's a man after your own heart here.
Good morning. It's Tex Bigsby or George Pickens. So if ETN's out, it's 100% in my mind. I think you go with Bigsby. Excuse me. I know you and me just talked about that. I didn't realize ETN had been downgraded even worse. So I think it's going to be Bigsby this week. That Giants Pittsburgh game is the lowest point total we've seen in a long time. I think it's going to be a lot of running there. So I think I have to go with Bigsby.
Yeah, I'm on the fence with this one because I do think George Pickens is in line for a big week.
Just followed up with that half point during PPR.
Yeah, I mean, Tank Bigsby is, he is the one that I would say is the safer floor, but the higher ceiling's George Pickens. If I had to pick one of these two to find the end zone this week, I actually think it's probably George Pickens. But just because of the safety, I'll go Bigsby because Bigsby's not going to bust this week. I really don't expect Pickens to either, but he's got a better chance at busting, if that makes sense. Better chance to boom, better chance to bust.
Gotcha.
Matthew says, T. Higgins' injury has left me with the options of Pollard or Ramondre in my flex. How screwed am I, he says. Well, Matthew, you're in luck.
Yeah, you're in luck. With Spears missing, Pollard should see some PPR touches there. So I don't think that would be too bad. And then Ramondre's got the Jets. The Jets haven't really been too scary. So both are good starting options in my mind this week. If it's PPR, which I'm going to assume it is, Titans have – why am I missing this game?
The Titans
have Detroit. And that's going to be a run fest, or not a run fest, a passing game for Tennessee. So I think I actually start – I think in PPR I'm starting Pollard over Ramondre just because without Hopkins there's not a whole lot of weapons. And I believe Burks is still on the IR too. So you have Boyd and Ridley and Pollard are your top three.
Coming out off of last week where Antonio Gibson was a non-factor, I think I'm going to go roll the dice with Ramondre Stevenson this week. Every time I advocate to sit him, Brant, he ends up coming at us with a touchdown of like a 30-yard carry or better. So I'm actually going to go Ramondre in this one. My biggest thing is I just don't love Pollard. Tony Pollard was kind of that guy that when he wasn't the focus in Dallas and he came in to spur or to give a break to Zeke, he looked great. And then he goes and gets his own chance and it's like, holy crap, this is not great. So I think I'm kind of out on Tony Pollard. So I'm going to go Ramondre.
All right. Ryan, good morning. Needs 2 QBs. Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Russell Wilson. Daniels, if he's played, he's worried about that rib injury. You and me have talked. There's no reason for Quinn to be rushing Daniels back. So if he plays, they all think he should be healthy enough. I believe they're first or second in that division. That's not very good. So I think if Daniels plays, you have to start him. I think you go with Kyler here, the rushing upside. So I think I go with Kyler Murray here. And the New York Giants defense has been sneaky good this year. So they could be put some pressure on Russell Wilson and that banged up line. So I'm going to go with Kyler and Daniels. If Daniels is out, I think I go Kyler and Russ.
So for me, I'm not trusting Russell Wilson based off a 1 week performance. So Russ is out regardless for me here. Even though I don't love Baker without his weapons, I'm still going to play Baker over Russell Wilson. Just because, listen, at the end of the day, the Steelers is a run-first offense. It's always going to be a run-first offense, regardless. I know Russ looked good last week, but I'm not interested in Russell Wilson. As far as the Jaden Daniels thing, I actually think there is a reason for Dan Quinn to rush him back because, yes, they do have a lead in that division, but I'm not as scared of the Commanders as I am Dallas or Philly if either of those offenses get clicking. I think Dan Quinn's smart enough to know that if he's got a lead, he's got to step on the gas. So I think he could rush him back. But I do think the way the pads and everything work, he will have so many pads on those ribs. It's like you said, we talked about it last week, Brant. He could have came back and played if it wasn't such a blowout last week. So I think if he's under center, it's because he's good to go, but also because there's a chance they could be rushing him back. But it's Kyler and Daniels just because of rushing upside. If Daniels doesn't play, I'm saying Mayfield. Yep, Kevin says ETN's now considered a long shot to play. We agree with that. All right, Tony says, good morning, guys. Got a few questions this morning. First, Seahawks or LA Chargers defense? All right, so Brant, are you confident in your defense to slow Josh Allen and the Bills down?
No. We're still banged up. I know we added a couple pieces this week. I'm excited about the trade with Ernest Jones. Murphy's back. So I'm excited to see what the defense is, but they're still too young. Josh Allen's still too good. I'm going with the Chargers as they have probably the best matchup, one of the best matchups this week against the Saints and Spencer Rattler. So I'm going to go with the Chargers.
Yep, I agree. Chargers by a long shot on that one. And then second part, he's got Kyle Pitts or Jake Ferguson in his tight end spot.
Let's hear your take on this one because I'm kind of interested because I'm sitting there in a toss up with Ferguson and somebody else as well. So let's hear your take on this.
So in years past, Brant, it's kind of been one of those things like, oh, Jake Ferguson, that's not a bad. Who's he playing? Oh, the Niners. Yeah, I'm not starting a tight end against the Niners. I don't know if I feel that way at this point. Kyle Pitts, man, I'm so disappointed in Kyle Pitts. I have to go Jake Ferguson just because they're. Can you trust Kyle Pitts at this point in his career, Brant? I say no. Some weeks it's been okay, other weeks it's been not good. So I say Ferguson on this one.
Okay, I'd say Ferguson as well too. They're they've moved him all around that formation, all around the offense in order to avoid some tough matchups because there is no real number 2 there. So I think I'd go with Ferguson as well.
All right.
Mark in PPR, Najee Harris or Tank Dell? Let's do that one first. I'm going to go with Najee. He's looked great, back-to-back 100-yard games. They're starting to get it going. I'm going to go with Najee Harris over Tank Dell.
Yeah, I agree. I like Najee Harris this week. Monday Night Football and what should be a low-scoring ground and pound game. Steelers are going to be able to do what the Steelers do best and run the ball. I like Najee a lot this week.
Okay, and the next one's Kincaid or Laporta. I'm going Kincaid. Seattle's given up, I think it's like the 3rd or 4th most receptions to tight ends this year. So I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid. I think he's going to do for a big game. And against Seattle, he should be in for a big game.
I'll say this first and foremost, Brant. I've been riding Dalton Kincaid all year in my tight end spot in the league I care most about, and he's been ass. I made a trade this week to get a tight end in George Kittle that I want to play over him, so I'm sitting Kincaid for the first time all season. He's going to explode today on my bench, so I would go Kincaid as well. All right. Eric says, your thoughts, please. Rebuilding and selling. Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, safe to say their values are late first round to early first, mid-second round picks. How do Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, and Chase Brown compare to those players? Okay, so this is really interesting, Brant. So I'm gonna take a crack at this really fast. So I think as far as the value, honestly, the value is super high right now for Amari Cooper and Devontae Adams due to the fact that they just left kind of bad situations and upgraded. So yeah, it is a chance to sell high on those guys. The first round picks, I think, to a contender, absolutely. And then as far as if those young guys are the players that you're trying to get back in return, I actually like Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, and Chase Brown. However, Zay Flowers, I think, is the only one with upside that could potentially reach that of Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams, or Josh Jacobs, because Jordan Addison's never going to be the number 1 in Minnesota. It's just not going to happen. And then Chase Brown, I like a lot long-term, but the Bengals are never going to be a run-first offense. So as far as if you're moving those 3 players in Adams, Cooper, and Jacobs together, I think you could get more value than those 3, but I don't hate that trade. Brant?
Yeah, I don't hate it at all. I think you hit the nail on the head. If you're going to get those guys over to contender, absolutely. Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is oh man, Zay Flowers is hit and miss right now in that offense, but he still is the best. He still is probably the number 1 guy there. So I think his value is right there. I think you're going to have to do. Because the youth, I think you're going to have to throw in a pick if you're trying to move those. I just don't think you're going to. I don't see how that works.
I don't think we're going to disagree on that. If I'm sending Cooper, Devontae Adams, and Jacobs and getting those 3 players in return, I'm not adding a pick, or I'm not doing it because you're giving up all the upside in those 3 players. Even with age, you're sending those 3. That's going to make a team a contender. I'm not giving a pick up.
So this is one trade. Okay, I must have been reading it wrong.
That's how I'm assuming it is.
Okay,
I'm assuming it is.
I was assuming it the different way. Are these the value like Adams for Zay? That's how I was valuing it. But if this is one trade, absolutely, I'm taking. If I'm rebuilding, I'm taking the Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, and Chase Brown, and I think you're pretty even there for the future there if you are rebuilding.
Okay. I would say personally, if it's me and I'm giving the 3 players up in a 3 for 3, I'm asking for a fourth, either low end gamble player or like a second or third round pick on my end, but that's just me.
Okay. Chris asked, Chubb or Bigsby? I'm going to go with Bigsby as long as ETN's out.
Yeah, I agree. Bigsby over Chubb for me. Dan says we got an IDP question here, Brant. Foye Aluakon versus Spillane. The Raiders have the Chiefs, and the Jaguars have the Packers. Years past, I would have said this is Aluakon pretty and not really close because he's been such a focal point for that Jaguars defense, but he's been atrocious this year. Granted, he missed some time, but when he was playing, he wasn't really all that impactful. Spillane, don't know what he's done this year off the top of my head, but I don't necessarily love a linebacker against the Chiefs.
I think I'm going to go with 4A just because I think the Jacobs, Green Bay is going to run the ball a little more, so we have more of the upside to get those solo tackles and assisted tackles up the gut there. So I think I'm going to go with him. So I just don't see the Chiefs running it as much. I think they go to the outside more. So I think I'm going to go with Aluakon.
I'm going to go with Robert Spillane after I went back and looked at him. First 5 weeks, he was over 20 points in IDP leagues, Brant. Then he had a 15-point game. Then was down to 10 points last week against the Rams, but should bounce back. And the Chiefs have been running Kareem Hunt an awful lot more than I expected. So I'll go Spillane on that one, Dan.
Okay. Matt Jones asks, Lockett or Chubb? Let's just start with that one right there. I think I go Chubb. I think I do. Even with DK out, I think I go with Chubb here.
It is the Ravens. The Ravens haven't been as good against the run this year as they have been in years past. So I think I'm probably leaning Chubb as well. But Tyler Lockett could sneakily get 15 points, and it wouldn't really surprise me either. Just catching 10-yard catches and going down to the ground. So I think I'll go Chubb here, just because I think he probably has a better chance to find the end zone over Lockett, but it's not an extremely far apart one here for me. So I'll go Chubb as well, Brant.
All right, next one is Bigsby or Marvin Harrison. I think I'm going to go with Bigsby. Marvin Harrison's been the hit or miss this year. He is a superstar in the making, in my mind. But I think I have to go with Bigsby here.
Yeah, I mean, this game with the Cardinals against the Dolphins points to a game where you should have to get Marvin Harrison involved, but they find a way never to look his way. It's been more miss than hit this season with him, as a guy who traded off some big pieces to go get the number 1 overall pick in our home dynasty league to get Marvin Harrison. I've been extremely disappointed. I was actually looking at how I could get him off my starting lineup this week, just because I don't trust Kyler to get him the ball. So I actually agree with you, Brant. I hate that I do, because I feel like, going into week 8, it should be Marvin Harrison should be an instant start, but he's absolutely not. So I agree with you in Bigsby here.
Okay.
Bill says he's in a jam. He has Tracy and Singletary. Is there a sleeper of the waiver wire to replace those two on waivers? He's got Algier, Warren, Justice Hill, Zach Charbonnet, Zeke Elliott, or Jaleel McLaughlin. I'm starting it. I'd rather start Tracy or Singletary over just about every name that's on that waiver, I would say. I mean,
yeah, the only one that would stick out to me is Algier, just because he is still seeing touches. But I think I'd rather start Tracy or Singletary there.
Yeah, I mean, prior going into last week, I think I would have agreed. Algier was almost a non-factor last week in that game against the Seahawks. Now, granted, we were trailing, so that didn't help things. But I'm trying to go see what his snap share was. I mean, he was only on the field for 23% of the snaps last week, so 5 carries. Yeah, I'm starting whichever one you feel more comfortable with, Bill, Tracy, or Singletary. I personally think it's Tracy that I would roll the dice with, but whichever one you're more comfortable with, I think I'm starting over any of those other names.
Absolutely. All right, Chris. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Need your advice. QB, wide receiver 2, and flex. Let's see. QB is Anthony Richardson or Caleb Williams. I'm gonna go with. I think I'm still gonna go with Caleb Williams. He's been looking great. I think I'm gonna go with Caleb Williams. Richardson's accuracy in the short game scares me. And they play Indy has. I want to say Indy.
The Texans.
Yeah. That's not a tough matchup, but I still think I go with Caleb Williams.
I'm looking something up here, Brent, really fast because I just feel like that's confirmed there and not so much there because he got, I mean, when he saw Houston week 1 this year, he's quarterback 4. But that was all in that deep pass to Alec Pierce. So, I think I go Caleb Williams as well. That offense is starting to get right. I want to see a couple weeks of Anthony Richardson, looking somewhat better than he has before I want to start him. So I'll go with you, Anthony Richardson. Or Caleb Williams, sorry.
All righty. Next one is wide receiver 2 is Malik Neighbors or DJ Moore. I could go with DJ Moore here. Normally, I would favor Neighbors, but I think I'd go with DJ Moore.
Yeah, I just because of the matchup, I'm gonna go. I agree. It's DJ Moore. Plus, you got to talk about there's got to be some turmoil in New York after Jones got the hook last week in favor of Drew Lock. I mean, that didn't look any better with Drew under center. So, I mean, and they're playing one of the best defenses in football this week. So I'm gonna go DJ Moore as well, Brant.
Flex is Mostert, Brian Robinson, Chase Brown. I think we're both in agreement here with Brian Robinson.
Now, my question is, would you play Malik Neighbors in the flex over Brian Robinson?
No, because I think that they saw this a few weeks ago. They've got to lean on that run game in order to open it up for Daniel. So I think I like Brian Robinson as well.
Yeah, Brian Robinson, I agree. I just wanted to get your thought on that one. Charles asks, Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins, or Tua in his return to the football, Brant? To the football. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
To the football.
To the fruit man.
I'll refrain from my joke. But Kyler Murray, I think I'm going to go here with rushing upside. Give me Kyler Murray.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, again, if you take out everything and you just look at this picture for what it's worth in a vacuum without knowing everything other than the 3 names, it's Tua and it's not close. But obviously, we know this is his first game back. And the Dolphins' offense has looked anemic without him. So, I mean, is he the missing piece or is that just the downfall of the Miami offense? I'm going to go Kyler just because of the rushing upside and also the fact that they should have to pass if Tua looks good. But I'll go Kyler just because I don't think he's going to end up, on a stretcher getting taken to the hospital in the third quarter. Obviously, I pray that doesn't happen for Tua, but man, I just can't advocate starting him until we see him for a few weeks. I wish he'd wear a Guardian cap, but
yeah, me too. Sorry, I'm over here working a trade right now too. I actually have people responding finally. With Evans out already, Tony asked with Evans out already. He used Cup, so I have Reed, Pop Douglas, and Wan'Dale Robinson need 2. So I think you start Reed. I know he had a bad week last week, but I think you start Reed. They play the Jets, don't they? Yeah. Who's going to pull Sauce? Would it be Pop? I think Pop would pull Sauce, or does Sauce just stay on one side?
He's been staying pretty one-sided for the most part.
I think you go with Pop Douglas here. I know he looked bad last week, but he also got banged up, so I think you go with Douglas.
Yeah, Douglas is startable now that Drake May's under center and looking good. So I think I agree here. It's Reed and Douglas. I want to advocate for Wan'Dale, and I think if the Giants were playing anybody other than the Steelers, I'd probably say him, but I'm not touching any Giants players against the Steelers if I can avoid it, with the exception of maybe the running backs. But that's about the extent of that. Ryan says, Evan Ingram or Tucker Kraft? And then he's got another question about wide receiver here. So which one of those 2 tight ends do you feel better about, Brant, in the same contest here?
I'm going to go with Ingram. He just gets peppered with targets there. They try to get him going in the screen game and everything else. So PPR, he's in my mind, he's a must start with how much they try to get him involved in the screen game and everything.
I agree. It's Ingram for me. And then he needs one out of Brian Thomas Jr., Devonta Smith, or Amari Cooper.
Devonta Smith. No Dallas Goedert. Devonta Smith I like this week. I think he's due for a good game here, so I'm going to go with Devonta Smith.
He has to be due for a good game because he was crap last week, and Manelli. Was he bad? Brian Thomas, Brant, feels like the obvious choice to me. I mean, I feel like over recent weeks, he's really asserted himself as the number one in that offense.
Brian Thomas has looked phenomenal, and I really don't like benching both of those or any of those three, really.
Out of the last 4 weeks, Brian Thomas has been a wide receiver one or better, I guess. He's wide receiver 9, 8, and 2, and then he threw a dud week in there at Chicago. He was wide receiver 62. So I think I'm going Brian Thomas. I don't want to leave him on my bench at this point. Whereas you've got Devonta Smith coming off of an absolute stinker. So I'm gonna go Brian Thomas Jr. and I'm gonna do it confidently.
Okay.
Amy says, back to my tight end question. I also have Kincaid, but I'm like you and I benched him. So I have him and Ingram and just grabbed Njoku this week. So still Ingram, she says. So Ingram over Njoku and Kincaid, Brant. Is that where you're at? Or
yeah, I'm still with Ingram. I don't trust a lot in that Browns offense right now with Winston coming in. So I'm a little nervous. I know that, he's going to push the ball down the field, but I still don't trust anything right now. So I'm going to go with Ingram.
Okay. I still think I go Ingram as well. Like you said, there's a lot of targets for Ingram right now. So I'm going to roll Ingram as well. You're up.
Rob asks, need one for PPR. Dobbs, Najee, or Olave? Najee's been getting pretty good PPR value this year, hasn't he? Of course, you want to be slow now. Let's see. 5-3-2-2. I guess he didn't really have any last week. I think I still go with Najee. I think he's got the best floor, so I think I go with Najee.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Najee here for me, so I will go Najee. Joe says if Higgins is out, he needs 2 in PPR. Evan Ingram, Trey Palmer, Brian Robinson, or Chuba Hubbard.
Brian Robinson and Evan Ingram.
Okay, I think I agree here. I like Trey Palmer. I think rest of season, but I want to see how this offense looks this week against the Falcons. See who Baker starts to lean on. So I'll go Evan Ingram and Brian Robinson this week as well.
Okay. Kyle, need a flex this week. Bateman, Wilson, D-Hop, or Ray. This one hurts to say because I have so much faith in him. But if Zay Flowers is out, I think you have to start Bateman. I think I'm starting Bateman over all of them right now, too, just because I don't know what D-Hop's going to look like week 1 in Kansas City. So I'm going to start Bateman.
Yeah, I think this week it's Bateman as well. I think next week it's probably not, but I think for this week I'll go Bateman. Elliot says, morning, guys. Good morning. Jordan Mason, James Conner, Kenneth Walker, Jonathan Taylor need to sit 1, Brant.
Need to sit 1. This is so tough. Connor's matchup is Arizona and Miami. His matchup is one of the worst rush defenses in there. Jonathan Taylor is Jonathan Taylor. I think I'm sitting Mason.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's who I'm sitting is Mason.
Let me just check one thing. Otherwise, I may not. I agree unless this thing is. Oh my God, Micah Parsons is still out.
Yeah, that's why this is so tough. I saw that come across the.
I'm sitting James Conner, Brant. I'm sitting James Conner. This Dolphins Cardinals game could get away from the Cardinals so fast they're forced to throw, which kind of takes James Conner out of the equation. I know he's a good pass catching back. I'm going to do it. I'm taking James Conner out because I think the rushing upside is not going to be there just because of the simple fact that they may get behind. Now, what James Conner is going to go for 100 yards today rushing just because I said that. But, man, with Micah Parsons out, that Cowboys defense is a step slow against the running backs. So I just can't take Mason out.
Okay. Pops asked, good morning. He needs one for the flex. This is what we talked about pre-show. He's adding a few more names in there. It's Reed, Connor, JSN, or Terry. I think we're both in agreement that it's JSN if DK's out.
Yeah, it's JSN for me if DK's out. However, if Jaden Daniels plays and they say he's 100%, it'd be hard to sit Terry too.
That would be a stack for us in that league too.
I'm gonna say JSN over Terry if DK's out. If DK plays, it's Terry. That's how I'm gonna say this.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Sean says in the flex, Romeo Dobbs or Zay Flowers, with Flowers being questionable.
I think you go Dobbs. Bateman's starting to have good value here. Flowers is questionable, so I think you go Dobbs.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning Dobbs on this one as well. Dobbs was Love's favorite target last week, so which it's kind of that Green Bay offense has been. This week it's this guy, next week it's that guy. So we'll see. I think I go Dobbs over Flowers just because he's banged up though, and did have to leave that contest last week. So I'll go Dobbs on this one. Next week I think I would be on Flowers, but for this week it's Dobbs.
Okay. Adam asked, better PPR flex play, Devonta Smith versus Cincy, Devontae versus Williams. Carolina, or Taylor versus Houston. How do you bench Taylor if he plays?
You can't.
I think you got to go Taylor.
Yeah, you can't bench Taylor if he plays. I mean, he's 100% a start. So, and I do believe he's off the injury designation. So he's 100% playing this week. Last contest out, he had 108 yards, a rushing touchdown, and 3 receptions. So yeah, I'm not sitting him for anything. But I will say I do think Javonte Williams is a sneaky upside play this week, which we will talk about in just a few minutes. I assure you of that, Brant. Okay. All right, Jennifer says pick one in PPR: Chuba, Rashad White, or JSN.
I'm going JSN if DK stays out. I'm going to go with JSN there. If DK plays, you guys got Tampa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I would lean Rashad White if DK plays.
Yeah, it's Rashad White if DK does play. If DK doesn't play, it's JSN.
Unfortunately,
and then she follows it up.
Unfortunately, you may have to wait because we play the 3:00 game.
And I'm okay to wait for that. JSN's got high enough ceiling. If there's no DK, that I'm okay to wait for that. Jennifer follows it up with Chase Brown or Pitts in the flex, Brant.
Chase Brown. I think I go with Chase Brown in the flex.
I agree.
Okay. Brad says, here is a real doo-doo one. PPR, pick one. Wan'Dale Hopkins or Sterling Shepard. I think I go with Hopkins here. I do. Tied to the best quarterback. That's the most upside. I think I go with Hopkins.
Yep, I agree. Again, Sterling Shepard could be really good with Baker, but I want to wait and see how that offense shakes out. So I'm going to wait on that one. Whereas, if we look at the last week's games with these wide receivers that were traded for by teams that had the clear need at wide receiver, they both had good weeks in Adams and Cooper. So I don't see why Hopkins couldn't have that same thing. So this week I'm going to go with Hopkins. Troy says pick one: Rome Odunze, Zay Flowers, or Calvin Ridley at flex and full point PPR.
Man, they tried to force feed Ridley last time on the field. When do you have 9 targets with no receptions?
It's not been good.
I think I have to go with, if Flowers plays, I think I go with Flowers. Dunze I love, and I would love to start him, but I can't vouch to start him week in and week out. So if Flowers plays, I start Flowers. If not, I think I go Ridley.
Yeah, Ridley the last 2 weeks has had 17 targets. He's only managed 3 receptions out of those 17 targets. So definitely not been good for Ridley. No, D-Hop should equal more targets, but man, with who's throwing the ball, I'm not interested in those targets right now. So let's go Zay Flowers if he plays. I agree, Brant. Zay Flowers if he plays.
Okay. Rob goes PPR, Hubbard, Dowd, MHJ, or Ingram. Need one. I think I go with Ingram. Like I said, they force feeding the ball. That's PPR. I think I go with Ingram.
Yeah, I mean, Rico Dowdle should be a focal point, but again, the Cowboys are activating Dalvin Cook for some reason. Zeke's still there. I don't know. I don't want any part of that Cowboys backfield. Chuba Hubbard, I don't like starting anybody against that Broncos defense. That's one of them and the Steelers are 2 of the scariest defenses in football for me right now. So it does come down to MHJ or Ingram. Again, it should be a no-brainer. It should be Harrison, but I just can't start Marvin Harrison right now. So give me Evan Ingram again because of the targets. So I hate starting a tight end over what should be a top-end wide receiver, but you just can't start Marvin Harrison with much confidence right now.
Sherman said he ain't got no question today, but thank you for what you do to help. No problem, Sherman. We appreciate it. We love getting up and talking football during this time.
Yep. Jennifer says pick one: David Montgomery, Brian Robinson, or Kareem Hunt.
I'm going Brian Robinson here. Monty, we talked about that on the show. It scares me. He may, after how good Gibbs looked, maybe they take a step back and he doesn't see as many carries. So I think I go with Brian Robinson.
Yep, I go Brian Robinson as well.
Brandon Ham, good buddy of ours, asked Nico Jackson or Alexander Isaac. Wrong football. I did look it up to make sure I knew what I was going to get into here. Wrong football. We are talking American football, but thanks for tuning in.
I'm going to answer this one because it's not wrong football for me because I am a fan of the English Premier League. I'm going to take the player that's worth well over 100 million pounds, and that's Alexander Isak, who does play for yours truly's Magpies. These two have both scored a game in the contest between Ham's Chelsea and my Newcastle. So I'm going to take the guy that's worth way more money, the guy that's been looked at by lots of football giants, including PSG, not Nico Jackson, who's just coming onto the scene. So I'm going to take the proven commodity here.
I just looked up the name. I wasn't looking up stats or nothing on that.
Jonathan says 2 choices here for y'all this morning: Evan Ingram or Mark Andrews for tight end. This one's an easy one, right? Evan Ingram. Even though Mark Andrews is starting to come on lately, I want to see it for a couple more weeks before I start considering him. And then tight end, and then it says Mostert or Brown at running back and half-point PPR. I can only assume it's Chase Brown. Brant.
I think I go Chase Brown here. Man, Mostert gets Tua back, so that offense should look a little better, but I think I go with Mostert.
I mean, can
Brown.
we just?
I think I go with Brown. Sorry.
Is Mostert washed at this point? I mean, Jalen Wright's still there, or is there? We haven't really seen much out of him yet. And Tua's there. I think we can say Mostert's washed. He's done absolutely almost nothing this year. Brant, last year he was top 5 at this point.
He has also missed some time. He missed 3 games. And then he had a 15-point game, and then he had to play with only God knows who in Indy. He's only played 1 game with Tua this year, and that was week 1. And
that's all anybody's played with Tua this year in that offense.
So, but yeah, week 5, he did end up with 15 points. He had 19 carries. He had 11 last week. I don't know if he's going washed.
Washed.
Okay.
I'm watching him, Brant.
It's fine. When he's in our questions in 2 weeks for everybody asking to start him or not because 2 Dolphins are back.
He's been in our question every week. And neither one of us have advocated to start him.
No, we haven't. Kyle asked Sutton or Bigsby. I gotta go Bigsby. I just cannot advocate to start Sutton at all.
Sutton's coming off of a goose egg, man. No,
Yeah.
not Sutton. Not Sutton.
And it wasn't much better than that the week before either, was it?
No. Craig says, would you trade Stephon Diggs for David Montgomery? His wide receivers are Malik Neighbors, Diggs, Amari Cooper, Michael Pittman, Jalen McMillan, and his running backs are Gibbs and Taylor.
No, I think I'll ride with Gibbs and Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
All you're going to do is I think I go with Gibbs and Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at those wide receivers, Brant, like McMillan could be something, Pittman could be something. Those guys are both huge question marks at this point. So really, you're looking at Amari Cooper and Malik Neighbors and Diggs as your wide receivers. Your running backs are solid. I wouldn't mess with those too awful much. Montgomery, all he's going to do is have you trying to guess which one you play between him and Gibbs every week. Granted, it'd be good injury assurance if Gibbs were to happen to get hurt, but I'm not messing with that team that you have right there at this point.
Zach asks, Mason or Jacobs, full point PPR? I think I'd go with Jacobs here. I like Josh Jacobs.
Yep, Jacobs. I agree with that take. It's Jacobs.
Craig asks, Murray or Daniels? I go with Daniels if he's healthy. I like the weapons there a little bit better just because we haven't seen a whole lot out of Marvin Harrison. So I think I go Daniels.
Yeah, it's Daniels if he plays. Adam says J.K. Dobbins, James Cook, or Jonathan Taylor. Pick 2.5 point PPR.
So Dobbins has a great matchup this week, and I would advocate to start him almost anywhere. But I don't know how you bench Cook and Taylor when Cook is playing the Seahawks, who couldn't stop anybody that runs the football. So I think I go with Cook and Taylor here. Yeah,
I was just getting ready to say Dobbins is so good and he has a great matchup that you almost don't sit him for anybody except for these two, probably. So there's a couple other names, obviously, but yeah, I'm taking Cook and Taylor over Dobbins in this one.
Aaron asked, Pollard or Bigsby in the flex? Bigsby in the flex, I believe. Without ETN, I think you go Bigsby.
Yep, we agree. Jeff says, if no Daniels, Dell, Harrison, or McLaurin in PPR.
I think I go with Dell here. Yeah, I think I go with Tank Dell.
Yeah, I'm going Marvin Harrison on this one. If Daniels plays, it's McLaurin. I'm not starting a wide receiver with Marcus Mariota. As a Falcons fan, I've witnessed that crap firsthand. Never in my life will I tell anybody to start a wide receiver catching passes from Marcus Mariota. Tank Dell has been wishy-washy this year at best too, like Harrison, but I think what gives me the nod here is Harrison, if he gets targeted appropriately, is the bell cow of that offense, whereas Dell, I don't know if I put him over Diggs. I think those two are pretty neck and neck at this point, so I'll give Harrison a slight nod on that one.
Okay. Jeff follows it up with Bigsby, Brian Robinson, and Hunt. Rank them this week. I think I go Brian Robinson, Bigsby, and then Hunt. I think that's my rankings.
You speak for both of us on that one. I agree. Dennis says Tua or Kyler. He's worried about Kyler since the Dolphins have only given up 3 receiving touchdowns. Also picked 2 wide receivers out of Olave, Flowers, and Debo. So can you advocate to start Tua? Can you argue that point this week, Brant? I mean,
I'm starting Kyler. His rushing upside will probably get you some more points. I don't trust Tua. I know he has all the weapons. I just don't trust it. So yeah, I can't advocate to start Tua. I just can't.
I do trust Tua to the extent that I'm going to talk about that Dolphins offense here in just a second, but not more than I trust Kyler if I'm talking about which one I think plays 4 quarters of football. I want Tua to come back. I want Tua to be successful. Fantasy needs Tua to be successful. I'm just not willing to bet a win or a loss on it this week. So I'll go Kyler. As far as the wide receivers, it's Debo for me, I think, out of those 3, Brant, especially with no Ayuk. How do you feel about that?
If Debo plays, I think I play Debo and Flowers here. If Debo plays, too questionable there. So hopefully maybe it will figure it out for you. But I think I go with Debo and Flowers.
Yeah, I'm not starting anybody catching passes from Spencer Rattler. He doesn't have time to throw, and when he does throw, it doesn't look good. So I'm going Debo and Flowers.
All right, Wayne asks 1.75 tight end premium. Komet or Keenan Allen? I think I go with Komet.
Mm-hmm.
And then also Bucky or Sutton. I think I go with Bucky just because I don't trust the Denver. I don't trust Sutton. I a little bit, but I don't trust Sutton.
Again, I agree. Bucky's got the toe injury, so that does scare me a little bit, but I'd rather have Bucky versus Cortland Sutton. Jennifer says Brant's quarterback or Bo's quarterback, or Olave, Monty, or Shakir in the flex, I assume. So pick one of those three, and then the quarterback, Brant.
I think I go with Geno here. No, I don't. Without DK, I think I go with Cousins. Without DK, I'm going with Cousins. If DK somehow plays, I'll go Geno, but I think I trust Cousins.
We're in complete agreement on that. If there's no DK, I'm starting Cousins. If DK plays, it's Geno. I think that DK Metcalf makes it a no question either way. If he's in, it's Geno. It's not close. If he's out, it's Kirk. It's not close. As far as the flex, Brent, how you feel on those three?
Monty. I think I start Monty. He finds the end zone. He was a little banged up last week, but I think I start Monty.
Okay. I think I agree. It's Monty, Olave, and Shakir in that order for me.
You know how hard it is? Like this question right here, Dickie asked, would you flex Judy, Madison, Shakir, or McMillan? I just want to vouch for McMillan so much this week. I just want to so much. You and me talking
about it. Put your stamp on it. Put your stamp on it right here. Plant your flag, Brent.
I do. I think I start McMillan over all three of these. I do. I do. I really like him going on.
Okay, you ready for this? I'm going to plant my flag too. Jameis Winston under center in Cleveland makes that Cleveland pass game way more valuable than it was with Deshaun Watson. I like Jerry Jeudy this week, Brant. I think there's a good chance you see the most points put up by the Cleveland Browns at all this season this week. Again, this is a hot take. So yeah, give me McMillan. Dickie does follow it up with or Hunter Henry. I don't think Hunter Henry changes my mind. I'm sure it's not changing yours either. No. All right, to the jelly of the month, which we're still waiting to know what that jelly of the month is. You haven't told us yet. Bo Nix or Russ Wilson if Daniels can't go 6-point passing touchdowns.
I'm going to go with Bo Nix, and I'm doing the same thing. I've got Nix sitting on the bench with Daniels starting right now. Russ is on waivers, so I'm going to go with Bo Nix though.
With passing touchdowns, I'm going to go to the one that has the absolute best weapons. So give me Russell Wilson. George Pickens is better than anybody who wears Denver orange at catching passes at this point. So I will take Russ Wilson.
Right.
Steve asks, half-point PPR, pick one. Jason Kelsey versus the Raiders, Laporta versus the tight ends, or Freiermuth versus the Giants.
I think I go with Kelsey here. Yeah, I think I go Kelsey against the Raiders.
Give me Laporta. Laporta. I can't. Man, Kelsey was good the first week without Rice, then he wasn't last week. I'm going Laporta. Okay. I just don't trust that Kansas City offense right now. All right, Brent, we're going to jump over. We're going to do these underdogs on our touchdowns of the week. We're going to do them quick this week, though, because we've only got 10 minutes of the show left, and I want to have time to answer any questions that come in. So let's jump into these underdogs. All right, Brent, walk us through your underdogs.
So we talked about trusting Winston to push the ball a little more down the field. I got Cedric Tillman to go higher than 37.5 receiving yards. I think he catches a ball or two, and I think he gets over that pretty easily. I got Devonta Smith higher than 4.5 receptions in that Cincy and Philly game. I got Kenneth Walker to go higher than 14 rush attempts in that game against the Bills. The Bills are one of the worst against the run. But then you flip it over, and I got Kincaid to go higher than 40.5 receiving yards because Seattle is not very good against the tight end. And then I got Fairbairn higher than 1.5 field goals made there for Houston.
Okay. For me, I've got Cade Otton higher than 43.5 receiving yards. Pretty simply was the lead target last week. Trevor Lawrence to go higher than 237.5 passing yards. This contest looks like one that's going to be an air raid game. Highest point total of the week by Vegas against the Packers. I got Justin Herbert to go over 204 passing yards. Brant coming off 349 with the same core out there playing what I would say is a worse defense. I don't see how this isn't a lock. Brian Robinson higher than 52.5 rushing yards. Anybody who plays the Bears, I'm going to start him every week. The Bears give up almost 5 yards of carry to running backs. No brainer for me there. And then last but not least, I've got Dak Prescott to throw 2 touchdown passes this week. Brant, coming off of a bye week in his career, Dak seems to put it together pretty easily there. All right, take me through your touchdown scorers, Brant.
I got Jalen Hurts to rush in for a touchdown. I got Breece Hall to find the end zone. I'm going to go back to Monty, even though he screwed me last week. And I got Kenneth Walker to find the end zone.
Okay. I've got Tyreek Hill because I trust Tua to come back and get that offense looking right. All of us who drafted Tua, who traded for Tua this offseason, we're all waiting. We're waiting. This week we finally get something out of Tyreek. Excuse me, those of us that drafted Tyreek. Josh Jacobs finds the end zone again, coming off of a big week last week. Jahmyr Gibbs coming off of a huge week last week finds the end zone. Javonte Williams against the dreadful Carolina Panthers finds the end zone. And Brant, I feel like I had to say this. My gut, which is very large and in charge, I had this one, and I wanted to put it in there, but it's too big. Roschon Johnson finds the end zone for the Chicago Bears this week at plus 320 points.
Okay. Absolutely.
All right. So it's burning me up, Brant. I want to talk about it for just a split second while we're waiting for some of these questions. Tua. What does Tua bring to the table that the Dolphins have been missing so badly?
So with that, as you saw, it's all timing. It's all timing with that offense. Tua knows where the receiver is going to be at what time. It's all about timing. That's what's been missing because, the line is protecting for a certain amount of time. So everything is about timing, and that was thrown completely off when Tua went down. I hope it didn't scramble too much that the timing went down. But that's what he brings to this offense. Is I'm not going to say he's the greatest quarterback ever or anything like that. He brings that perfect timing down, and the wide receivers know all about it. And with the speed on that offense, it's really hard to do because most quarterbacks aren't used to throwing to receivers that are that fast.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. All right. Agreed. I'm excited to see Tua back. I want to see it. I want to see it be successful. The fantasy community needs it. Too many people own Jalen Waddle. Too many people own Tyreek Hill. Obviously, there's too many running backs in that backfield. So, man, we need the fantasy community. We need Tua. All right. Mark comes at us and says Sam Laporta or Kraft, Brant. Where are you at on these two tight ends?
I think I'm going to go with Sam Laporta. I think they're both valuable, very valued in their offense, but I think I go with Sam Laporta, especially with J-Mo suspended again.
Again, I like the emphasis on again. Sam Laporta for me. Listen, there's Christian Watson's might be healthy for the first time in his career this week, not on the injury designation. You've got Romeo Doubs, you've got Jaden Reed, you've got Dontavian Wicks, Josh Jacobs, Tucker Kraft. There's too many names. Whereas if you go to the Detroit side of the ball, you got the running backs, obviously, and then you got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta. So I do think Sam Laporta is a better option just because of Tucker Kraft could be faded.
All right. Jason asked Tillman, Judy, Ridley, Dow, Pearsall, Chase Brown, Troy Franklin, Yoshi Voss. I had to flip back to my paperwork where I wrote it down to make sure I got it right. He needs 4 of these for the PPR league. Let me flip back to where all my notes for today now. I had to go back. I told you guys I was going to write that down. I wasn't messing it up again. I got it. All right. So I think Troy Franklin, you and me talked. I think that's one of the 4 I'm going to go with. I I like Tillman to go over 37 or to go higher than those 37.5 yards. I just don't know how many receptions it gets. So I think I'm going to go with Judy because I still think he's the best weapon there. So Judy, Franklin, Chase Brown, and I think I'll go with Pearsall.
Okay, we were copacetic until that last name. Listen, I'm rooting for Ricky Pearsall. I hope it comes to fruition. Brent, he was just shot in the chest 8 weeks ago. And he's still
and Brian Robinson got shot too.
And and we saw Brian Robinson come on slow. Ricky Pearsall, I think, projects to be a very good football player, but I'm going to give him some time. Obviously, he hasn't been practicing all along. Brant, he's going to be a step slow, I think. So I'm going to go Troy Franklin, Chase Brown. I'm going to go Judy, and I'm going Calvin Ridley, who's had 17 targets over the last 2 weeks. I think the targets continue for him. I don't know where Pearsall is going to fit in the pecking order with Kittle, with Debo, with Jennings if he plays. So I just want to see a week of that 49ers offense with Pearsall. Like I said, I'm rooting for him, but I got to see it. All right, Brent, most important question of the week. I almost skipped this last week. You came correct and didn't let me. What's on the menu for you this week?
Honestly, we're not sure. We've been all over the place this week with tournaments and everything else and games, and I've got Sangamon County going on right now. We're not 100% sure what is on the menu. I know I have some frozen pizzas, so I guarantee one of those will probably get eaten at some point today. Other than that, I'm not 100% sure. Unfortunately, this is probably the worst possible Sunday now. I also have a practice later because we go back for our semifinals on Monday. So I'm a little tossed up in the air right now with my later plans for food, unfortunately.
Yeah, for me, it's not a good week. It's our annual cheer banquet that I get to miss football for every year. So thankfully, there is good food there. It's pulled pork and all kinds of other goodies, but it's not. I'll be watching my Falcons game on a phone screen instead of my 75-inch TV or whatever. But it's that, and then I think we're doing appetizers when we get home. My wife went to the store and got all kinds of them. So it'll be a good food day. It won't be a great football day for me, but I won't miss any. I tell you that. All right, couple quick questions here. Richard says Laporta or Ertz in PPR. He's tired of one catch for Laporta. Is he getting anything with Williams out? Yes, I think he does.
Yes, absolutely. I like Laporta over Ertz. I think I go James Cook here. He has Cook or Connor. I think I go with James Cook here. I like the matchup a little bit better.
Yeah, it's James Cook for me as well. This one, again, not only is he kind of matchup proof, but he's one of those guys that I don't want to take out of my lineup if I can avoid it this year. So that's first and foremost. Second of all, if you don't get your questions in with us in time, you want to get your question answered, or maybe you didn't ask a question with us because you were pretty confident and news comes out in the next hour and a half or so that starts you questioning some things. Don't hesitate to come onto the Fantasy Holics page, drop your question on the start sit post that'll be going there, and get your questions answered. Like I said, if you don't catch them with us, we will be live again next Sunday, and we will have a episode come out this week. When we go live on our podcast, don't hesitate to jump over on YouTube, follow that page. You can ask us some of these questions during the week too. If you got trades that you're thinking about, ads and drops, don't hesitate to come over to the YouTube channel and chat with us for the hour that we're live during the week as well. We don't go live on Facebook on our weekly pod, but we do on YouTube, and we definitely jump over and answer any questions that come in there.
Absolutely. It's good week. We're what, 2 hours away from kickoff. It's going to be a good week of football. I unfortunately do have to miss I have to miss an hour of it later in the day as well. But as always, stay hungry.
Stay fat, my friends.